Hey everybody, welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and on this episode, we're going back to the world of Street Fighter. So excited for this. This has been an amazing line that we've been seeing coming out from Jada Toys, and we now finally have the third figure in their base series. Today on the channel, we're taking a look at Ryu. We finally have the most popular character, arguably, in the entire franchise. And here he is now. He's joining the initial wave of 3 characters at launch. And this one here, it's, man, not gonna lie, I'm already a little bit biased, but it's a beauty. Previously on this channel, we've taken a look at Fei Long, who was the very first figure to be released, followed by Chun-Li, and now we have Ryu. And I'm really hyped for this one, so I'm not going to really waste a ton of time here talking about other extraneous things. Let's just get right into this here, and let's start with this packaging, which is gorgeous. I've been a fan of this packaging from the moment this line began, and I still don't get tired of seeing it. Every single figure from the Jada Street Fighter line is packaged in this arcade cabinet style box. We've got a life meter on top with some points. We've got a great big window that shows you the figure and many of the accessories that it comes with, and Ryu is no slouch in that department. And then on the bottom, we have a really big banner with the character's name, an image of him from the game, and also a joystick and some buttons to really kind of flesh out the feel of this being a video game cabinet. Top to bottom, it really does just look amazing. It's spectacular packaging. I love it. And an important thing, by the way, for anybody out there who's wondering, yes, it is collector friendly, but there is a right and wrong way to do that. I'm just going to go over this real quick. If you want to keep this packaging and reuse it again, whether you want to put your toy back in it or just for whatever reason, I don't recommend you guys make any cuts on top here. What you want to do, because of the shape of this box, is actually just make a single incision right here on the bottom. This way you can slide the entire tray out. You can take all the things out, put it right back on in there when you're done with it. Easy peasy, it's just that quick and that easy. If you do it from the top, you're gonna be in a world of hurt, so don't do that. But yeah, again, this guy is collector friendly, whether you realize it or not. The back of the packaging is identical to every single other figure we've seen so far in this wave, and then it has a Street Fighter logo on top. We have the 3 characters in this wave, who I already mentioned, and we're seeing them here in figure form. And then right below that, we have a character select bar, which has a ton of characters from this iteration of the game. Several of whom we've already seen some prototypes for during San Diego Comic-Con, and that includes DJ and Cammy, and I believe Ken also. And speaking of San Diego Comic-Con, I also just got this recently in the mail. This is the Evil Ryu figure. This was the SDCC Jada Toys exclusive this year, or one of their Jada Toys exclusives. So this is going to be coming soon in another video. I recommend you guys stay tuned for that, because spoiler alert, if this Ryu is amazing, this one here is like leagues above it. So yeah, you guys definitely got to stick around and come back for this one. But for now, we're talking about this normal Ryu here. I was going to say plain Ryu, but no, there's no such thing as a plain Ryu. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this Street Fighter figure out of the box and take a closer look at him from all angles. And here we have the Jada Toys Street Fighter Ryu out of the packaging. And initial thoughts on this figure are it's really equally as impressive as all the other figures we looked at so far from this lineup. Really, I mean, they keep getting better in so many ways, because, you know, in my opinion, Fei Long is a cool character, but maybe not really worthy of being one of the first of the wave, and really the first one that we actually got in our hands. Really should have been Ryu, I mean, truly. But now we finally have him, and I say finally because it's only been like a few months, but he's here at last, and this thing looks really good from every angle. I mean, I dig the body, I like the details we're seeing, the outfit feels really great. There's a lot of high points to discuss here. I'm not really seeing too much I'm going to be complaining about, so yeah, this is going to be an easy review, I think. So first things first, let's talk about the place that I always like to start in these videos, and that's with the face and whether or not this looks like Ryu. And I would have to give that a resounding yes. It really doesn't matter what angle you look at this figure from, it totally reads like Ryu. Now let's keep in mind that this is not based on like any specific live action or anime version. This is meant to be really an adaptation of how he would have looked in Super Street Fighter 2, and that was obviously a very pixely kind of look. So there's a lot of room for making some really their own choices, and they did that here, and it works because they really captured a lot of that essence, I feel like, of Ryu. And even then, like the way his face is shaped and that kind of thing, this reads like how we would have seen him in some like illustrations advertising the game, or even some of the manga adaptations that are out there from that time period. So they totally got his giant caterpillar eyebrows. I mean, there's no denying that. The expression on his face is very much a bleak Ryu face. While it might be a little expressionless, he does have a second portrait we'll discuss later that picks up that slack. I really enjoy the look of this guy, though. I mean, you know, like I said about Chun-Li, I don't think, well, actually, to be fair, I call Chun-Li kind of like a whitewashed version. I kind of see that here, too, but I guess now that I'm seeing this figure, I feel like they're very much going for just a heavily stylized look. And so far we've only actually looked at Asian characters, so I think when we see Ken or really some other folks out there like Zangief, we'll have a better idea of what they're doing with the faces. But as far as like, getting him to look like he's Japanese, arguably, stylistically, yeah, I can see that now. It's also meant to be like the Capcom video game version of that, so it is what it is. But it looks good. It actually does look pretty solid from here. I also like how the hair is sculpted. That looks really great as well. And I'm a big fan of his headband. This is a fun little piece here. So the plastic here is a different, softer material, which is used in other parts of this figure that you'll see as we go through this review. But it looks really great. I like how it flows and the shape of it. So yeah, really nothing for me to complain about here. And again, that hair looks really good, no matter what angle you look at it from. So yeah, this Ryu is definitely a winner for me. But with that said, let's keep moving forward and talk about the rest of this figure. Head to toe, this figure is really great looking, and there's a lot of little details that go a long way here. So first things first, I want to talk about the gi. And the gi is interesting because, typically karate gis and most Japanese martial arts that are striking heavy would have a softer, smoother gi. Whereas this is kind of like almost like a grappling style gi, like judo or jiu-jitsu, because it's got this sort of rougher texture on it. And that's not entirely uncommon with karate, but typically it's not what you normally would see. But then again, this is Ryu, and he's traveled the world and seen all kinds of old school masters, so he's probably got to hook up to a really good gi guy. But yeah, the texture looks great. The collar as well, I really like this. I like how it feels, and it does a really great job also, kind of like capturing the weight of the outfit, and also a little bit of flow. I mean, you guys can see, like in some of these nooks and crannies especially, like how the belt is almost tugging on it and giving it some more dimension and some volume to it. And I think you can really see that when you look at the back of this figure, where you can see more like how his back muscles are kind of like pulling on this a little bit and causing some ripples there. Again, the waist has some good examples of that. So it really feels like there's a lot more gravity to this piece, the way this is done here. And it just feels great to touch also. Like as cool as it would be for it to be smooth, I guess, I much prefer this rougher texture because it gives you something to touch. Now, moving down, I really like the way the belt looks on him also, and just really this midsection of him. And in case you're wondering, the belt does not come off, it is not removable, and neither is the top of this outfit either. And just so you know as well, the top is not removable in any way. And this top is in fact a separate piece of plastic that was put on him. It's not sculpted onto the torso, it is completely separate and individual from the figure. But back to the belt, just like the gi, it has a great texture. The square knot around it looks really nice and feels good to the touch. And I really think, especially from like the back view with this belt now, you can really kind of see what I mean, like how it's pulling down on it. And especially like with his waist, just how much like realism there is with this. And it's not just smooth, like it actually has folds in the fabric. And that adds a lot to the realism of this figure. It's really great, wonderful detail to include, and very necessary, I think, for this World Warrior. And that goes for the legs as well. And the legs share the same texture that he has on the rest of his gi. It has a rough texture to it, but this is in fact hard plastic, unlike the gi outfit. And you can see it from behind as well. It's got some real nice folds there too. One thing as I look at the legs, and that's really across the board of all these characters I've kind of noticed, is like they almost feel a little big. And to be fair, so does the upper body. Like these things look kind of big and bulky, but I also think that's kind of like how the sprites looked, at least in my mind as a kid. Like these characters, yeah, they had their weights and their heights and all that, but they also just looked larger than life. And I feel like Jada's done an excellent job capturing that. Now let's talk about articulation here, and these guys have really great articulation. Starting with the head, which has an amazing range of motion, very dynamic. It's got a ball joint on the head, which, I mean, let's look at how much wobble he's got there. That's like perfect. And I believe, it's hard to say still, but I believe that the neck piece actually does move a little here. So it kind of can move independently, and that I think might be what is adding more of a bounce to the way it moves, a little bit more realism. So that's really great looking. Now Ryu also has ball jointed shoulders to give him a real great range of motion. And not only that, while you can't really easily see it, he does have butterfly joints. So you can get really wide arm poses as well as very tight arm poses. Now the uniform does get in the way a little bit of that, unfortunately. But I mean, you guys can see for yourself, a lot of figures won't be able to cross their arms that much, let alone even, like almost do the classic Ryu crossed arm pose, literally. But the fact that you can do any of this is actually pretty great looking. And this is kind of a preview of what his arms can do, because we have this wonderful bicep swivel, which you can see right there. We have an excellent double jointed elbow to get some real dynamic posing. And I mean, look at that. You get a nice, good looking elbow because of that. And we have wrists that can rotate as well as flex. Now, I mentioned that is a little bit hard to do because you can see like the wrist joints are really kind of tucked into those wristbands, and it makes it a little hard to do it, but they can bend. You just got to be gentle when you do it. Now, as far as his chest and his waist goes, there is articulation there, but it's very hard to pull off. And a lot of that is due to the gi and the fact that it is a separate piece sitting on top of his torso. So, yeah, he has a little bit of a twist. It's just not doing much. It might just be that it needs more heat applied to it, because before I did this review, I did hit the figure up with a quick blow dry just to help loosen the joints up a little bit, loosen up that paint. It might just be that he needs more, but I found it resistant on all the figures, and I'm afraid to move it further just because of how much it really is pulling back on me. Now, as far as the legs go, these should be much better because unlike, Fei Long, yeah, it looks like he can actually move his legs a little bit better. He actually can do a nice split here, and we could probably get some good kick action. But I wanted to show you guys first, there is a thigh swivel on them right there, and he has double-jointed knees. Very stiff out the box, but double-jointed knees are right there. And his ankles can also rotate and flex. Now, speaking of, let's try getting some action here. I want to see how his kicks are. So I'm going to start by doing the classic Ryu axe kick, and, well, it's more just like a front kick, so I can't actually get a full-on axe kick like he would do in the game, but we do have a front kick here. And unfortunately, that's because the bottom part of the gi, it is this other rubber material here, and it's not really allowing his legs to go any higher than this if they're moving straight up and down. Now, let's try maybe a side kick position, and, all right, that's actually really good. That's really good flexibility right there. That's a really solid-looking side kick. I wonder if we can actually get him to stand up straight in this position. I doubt we can, but we're going to try to pose him here like he's doing it for real, maybe. Let's see how this looks. I mean, it looks great. It's just a matter of really him holding that pose, which I don't think is going to happen too easily, but I don't think it's impossible either. Maybe I spoke too soon. But as I mentioned in a previous video, I found the perfect base to use for these figures, and that is this guy right here. This is a base from Ringside Collectibles, and it has nothing to do with Jada Toys Street Fighter at all. It's something I tried on a whim in one of my other Street Fighter review videos and discovered these actually are the perfect fit. So in case you're wondering, first off I should let you know that all these figures have a little peg hole in the bottom of their feet. It's a little hexagonal peg hole, and it's a weird size, but it's a good size, and apparently it is the right size for these ringside bases. And these are typically intended for WWE Elite and Ultimate Edition figures, and really any WWE figure that's out there from Mattel. So I'm going to go ahead, pop the peg hole into that foot over there. Let's get him into kicking position. And there we go. Really just that easy. That's how quick he goes into that pose. Now I should let you guys know too, you're seeing the base in white right now, but the base also is available in other colors. It just kind of depends on what's available whenever you go to Ringside Collectibles to find it. But they do come in black and clear, gold, blue, red, all sorts of different colors. But he is holding this pose with no issues right now. Perfectly balanced. He's not teetering over at all. And that's partly, the base, but also a testament to the engineering of the figure itself and the fact that he can hold this pose and not start flopping over or having joints kind of do whatever they want to do. He is legitimately holding this up right now, and it looks really good this way. Now, unfortunately, because his waist doesn't turn a ton, you can't easily do a roundhouse kick with him. I'm hoping we'll be able to get that with other figures, but so far, like I said, Jada Toys have been a little resistant to that part of the articulation, so we'll hope that that improves down the line. Now, our Ryu figure here comes with a bunch of different accessories, and they all add up to really ultimately the best way, I think, to display this figure. And we begin with these accessories by looking at his second portrait. Now, I alluded to this a little bit earlier in the video, but looks like all the Jada Street Fighter toys are going to come with at least one additional head. And generally speaking, they're going to have like one kind of boring face, for lack of a better term, more just like an expressionless face. And then they're going to have one very active, energetic fight face. That's what we have right here. And there's really no difference between this face and what's on his head other than his mouth. The eyes are basically the same. It looks like the eyebrows seem to be fairly similar. I think the hair is in maybe slightly different position, but very slight if it is. The headband is actually in a different position, so that's kind of interesting to note, because the headband that's currently on him is kind of just like split and resting, whereas this one is like, really you can tell it's whipping around. So yeah, different head sculpts here, and they both look really good. Let's go ahead and just do a quick head swap right now, just to see how easy it goes on, and I'm hoping this is going to be the kind of video where it just goes on super easily, and yeah, okay, it's already on, great. So that made my life real easy. So there we go. That's the angry head on Ryu. Yeah, the eyebrows, they're already like naturally in like, an angry position because that's just who he is. So it fits nicely and this head looks really good on him. But wait, there's more. Because we also have, in addition to that, another set of hands. And these aren't just any hands. These are the perfect hands to do a palm strike, or maybe like you're grabbing somebody to throw them, like, if you're grabbing the gi or whatever. Or, maybe to do something like, say, throw a fireball. So let me go ahead and do a quick swap out right now of the hands and show you how that looks. And I do want to point out as I do this too, by the way, I didn't mention this earlier, but the gloves on his hands are awesome. They're one of like my favorite things about Ryu. One of the best things I feel like in the game was those gloves. Maybe it helped me kind of fall in love with MMA growing up, but yeah, they look great, and they do have a little bit of a rough texture on them too, so they're not just plain old slab of plastic. They actually do have that sort of same texture, not quite the same, but they do have a rough texture just like his gi does. And here we go. Let's get those hands into him, and there we go. Hands are in there. I actually want to see if I can get him doing a charge-up pose, which we kind of sort of can. Yeah, we can kind of sort of pull that off here, right? I think that works. Yeah, there we go. So we sort of more or less have him in the charging pose, but there are still more accessories, like I said, and the best is yet to come. Because speaking of, we have a fireball for Ryu. This right here is a blue fireball for him. Really nice, great feel, solid piece of plastic. And it's also kind of a transparent blue piece of plastic, because if you see closely, there are some hands inside this fireball. How fun is that? There's actually hands embedded in it, so that's awesome. But the thing is now, what do we do with it? Because it's not like it's just going to float in the air, right? Well, there's one more accessory to take a look at, and that's the part that's going to finish this piece. So the last two accessories here are essentially one, because we have this right here. This is a clear, transparent, well, at first you might think it's a base, but no, it's actually a base not for the figure, but for the fireball effect. So the way this is going to work is, looks like it's kind of doesn't really matter, but one end will go into this base down here. So now it can rest like that. And then the top part, there's actually a hole in this fireball that's going to just squeeze on into there. And we're actually going to bend the arm a little bit. I think that's actually how it's meant to be, so it's on level with him, I think. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't think I like it that way. I think I'm actually just going to have it like this. And now we got to get Ryu in the fireball pose, but there you guys go. You can see how this is sitting here. So let me repose Ryu and get right back to you guys. And in no time at all, you can have your Ryu in this pose as well. Here he is. He's doing the Hadouken. And it really didn't take much effort. Honestly, I just needed to do it off camera so my hands just weren't blocking the screen the entire time. But yeah, not that hard to get. I do wish, again, that waist was moving a little bit more, but that might just be that I need to heat it up a lot more as well. So otherwise, though, you can see how it looks. And this is really cool to have it like this because, yeah, the fireball is now actually active and doing something. Really, there's no better way to pose this kind of character except, well, there actually is. And that brings us to figure comparison time, because now it is officially fight time. So here is our Ryu on one side and Chun-Li on the other. And Chun-Li is using the base because doing these kicks and having them stand up straight without it, it's really hard to do. It's very difficult. But yeah, you guys can see now how they look together, and this is a lot of fun. Like, this is how you want to have them here, like straight up in this kind of, well, I was going to say Mortal Kombat. That's the wrong franchise. But, in action, fighting each other, and it really lets you appreciate all the great details and also just how cool these figures are all going to look side by side when you get a ton of them together. But that's just Ryu and Chun-Li. Let's go ahead and do some comparisons with other figures. So let me go ahead now and bring in a G.I. Joe classified Tiger Force Outback figure, and that's from Hasbro. And I also have from Mattel, since we use one of their bases, let's bring in a figure. Here's an old Elite Chris Jericho. I don't remember what year it's from. This is a very old one because, well, yeah, Jericho's not even in WWE anymore, but this is how he's going to look side by side with these guys, which is pretty decent, as you can see here. Again, I don't remember the exact heights of anybody that's currently pictured here, and forgive me as I shift focus, but yeah, all that matters is kind of just how he looks in the 6-inch scale, and everybody here is in that 6-inch scale, and they all match up pretty well. So no drawbacks here already for the 112 scale. Let's go ahead and just try and show you guys how it looks with some 110 scale figures that are a little bit bigger, and that would be like this fighting figure over here of Rocky from NECA. That's an older Rocky figure. He's actually a little bit closer in the 6-inch scale, I think, though, but this figure is definitely not the same scale. This is from Diamond Select, and this is their John Wick figure, or one of their many John Wick figures. And you can really see the size discrepancy here now, because if you're talking 6-inch scale, John Wick is now like 7 feet tall. So yeah, doesn't really fit with those guys too well, but yeah, NECA figures really shouldn't be an issue here at all. And just for one last comparison, let's bring in the strongest woman in the world, at least according to Street Fighter 2. Let's go ahead and bring back our Chun-Li now without her base. And let's also bring in our Fei Long, who was the first figure we ever received for this line. So here's how everybody's going to look side by side from the Street Fighter line itself. And the nice thing about this is really it feels like this entire line is now like legitimately shaping up, because we got everybody here that we've gotten so far, and they all look really good together. Like, this is an awesome trio. It's a very fearsome looking trio, I should add. And yeah, this is just the start, because there's going to be a lot more figures coming soon. But size-wise, that's your look at everybody. Now, before I forget, there actually is one final accessory to talk about here. This comes packaged in every single figure, and it's actually literally just part of the packaging, but I think it's worth holding on to because it just looks really great. And what it is a backdrop that is level specific to every fighter that's getting a Jada Toys figure so far. So this is the backdrop from Ryu's level in Street Fighter 2, and it's here in all of its great 16-bit glory, looking beautiful, and totally worth keeping. Why? Because you can plop your figure down right smack dab in the middle of that, and you've got yourself a backdrop. That figure is ready for display. And as I've showed you guys in previous videos as well, if you get all the other figures that we've had so far and you line them up like this, it's going to be a pretty awesome looking way to show off your collection. Because every single person's going to have one of these. And, I mean, really, I can't think of a better way to do this. I mean, yeah, I showed them hanging out with their other fighters. That's cool if you want to have, like, a big, giant battle royale. But as far as just, like, displaying the figures one by one, this is a pretty cool way to do it. So, when you get your Jada Toys Street Fighter figures, do not throw out this backdrop. I say hold on to it and use it for your displays. And that's our look at Ryu from Jada Toys Street Fighter 2 line, and it's just another knockout figure. Ah, wonderful pun. For once in my life, I can actually say that's actually a real legitimate pun that I made when it comes to a fighting figure. But yeah, this figure is just as good as anything else we've seen so far. Absolutely on par with all the other Jada Toys Street Fighter figures. How does it rank compared to a Figuarts or a Storm Collectibles or any of those guys? Well, I can't really compare it because they're also different price points, to be completely fair. I can tell you guys, size-wise and that sort of thing, that Figuarts are going to be a little bit smaller, and Storm will be very close, but I think a little bit bigger. But the major difference is the prices. You know, a Figuarts is going to run you 60, 70. A Storm can be now around 80 to upwards of over 100, depending on how big the character is. And those are all worth it. Don't get me wrong, they're absolutely worth it. But if you want something that's a lot more affordable, this is the way to do it. Now, if you want to pick up this Jada Toys Street Fighter 2 Ryu for yourself or any other Street Fighter toys you've seen in this video, go ahead and check out my affiliate links in the description below. If you click on any of those, it helps support this YouTube channel at no extra cost to you. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time with a brand new challenger.